When a lonely millionaire father takes his disabled son to a quiet diner, he never expects to witness a life-changing moment. A kind-hearted waitress sees the boy struggling and does something extraordinary. Her small act of compassion leads to a heartwarming journey neither of them could have imagined. In the sleepy town of Ember Hollow, tucked between whispering woods and winding creeks, there was a roadside diner called the Lantern's Glow. It wasn't glamorous. It didn't serve gourmet cuisine, but it was warm, clean, and quiet, especially on rainy evenings when the regulars trickled out early and the jukebox played faded songs from decades past. Amira Sloan wiped her hands on her apron as she stepped out from behind the counter. She spotted a boy at table 4, thin, pale, and solemn, sitting stiffly in a wheelchair. He couldn't have been more than 7 or 8. His cocoa sat untouched. His father, a tall man in an expensive wool coat, was on a phone call just outside, pacing and gesturing in the rain. Amira approached gently. "Hey there, buddy, not a fan of cocoa?" The boy looked up. His eyes were a piercing blue, dulled by years of sadness. "I can't drink it by myself," he said flatly. "My hands shake." She pulled a chair beside him, slid the cocoa closer, and offered, "Want me to help, or maybe just talk while it cools?" He nodded slowly. This small act of kindness was nothing new for Amira. She had a gift for seeing people, not just what they wore or how they walked, but what flickered beneath their skin. She didn't know yet that the man outside, Cassian Rowe, was a millionaire hotelier grieving the loss of his wife, nor that this boy, Julian, hadn't stood on his own 2 feet since the accident 2 years prior. But she knew pain when she saw it, and somewhere deep inside something stirred. After the father re-entered and silently thanked Amira with a tired smile, she stepped back behind the counter. The other waitress, Tanya, raised an eyebrow. "You've got a soft spot for broken things, huh?" Tanya said. "Maybe," Amira replied, staring at Julian. "Or maybe I just believe some things don't stay broken forever." She didn't mention her ankle injury, the one that had ended her scholarship at the City Ballet Academy. She didn't mention the countless rehearsals she still watched on her phone when the diner was empty, or the way she sometimes spun behind the kitchen doors when no one was looking. She certainly didn't mention the day she'd stopped dancing for real, not just physically. That was 3 years ago. A lifetime. That night when Cassian and Julian stood to leave, Amira crouched beside the boy. "Come back sometime," she whispered. "Next time maybe I'll show you a cool dance trick. Bet you could learn it too." The father blinked, clearly surprised, and for the first time in years Julian smiled. Cassian wasn't used to kindness with no strings attached. Everything in his world, business, therapy, grief, had become transactional. But something about the young waitress lingered in his mind even days later. Julian asked to return to the diner. "Not for the food, not for the cocoa. For the girl who dances," he said. Cassian brought him back. Amira greeted them with the same warmth as if she'd been expecting them. She had cleared a corner of the diner floor, dimmed the lights, and brought a small Bluetooth speaker. "I thought you might like to see something fun," she told Julian. As soft jazz filled the diner, she began to dance. It wasn't perfect, her limp made sure of that, but it was mesmerizing, grace woven through limitation, beauty born from pain. When she stopped, breathless and smiling, Julian clapped. "Teach me," he said. "Please." Cassian's breath caught in his throat. She nodded. "Only if you're ready." "I'm scared," Julian admitted. "So was I," she said, kneeling by him. "But standing up doesn't mean you have to dance yet. It just means you're ready to try." She held out her hands. It took weeks. Cassian made excuses to bring Julian by the diner after the lunchtime rush. Amira would push back the tables and play music, encouraging him with patience and joy. Each time Julian pushed a little harder, from shifting in his chair to bracing his legs against the floor. Then, one rainy Thursday, something shifted. Julian stood. Not for long, not for far, but for the first time in 2 years he stood, with Amira's hands holding his and tears streaking her cheeks. Cassian watched from the corner, fists clenched, trying not to fall apart. After the lesson he stayed behind. "Why?" he asked her. She looked at him without blinking. "Because I see a dancer inside your son, and I know what it's like when no one believes in you." Cassian stared at her, unsure whether to thank her or offer to buy her a new life. Instead, he said, "Come to dinner with us, somewhere better than here." Amira smirked. "This diner is the best place I've ever been," but she accepted the offer anyway. Cassian Rowe was not a man who shared easily. But over dinner in a quiet candle-lit restaurant outside Ember Hollow, something about Amira's quiet strength unraveled his guarded edges. He told her about the accident, the icy road, the flipped car, his wife's final words, and the silence that had filled his home ever since. Julian had walked away with physical wounds. Cassian carried the invisible ones. Amira, in turn, spoke of the injury that shattered her dance career. One moment she was preparing for a lead role in a national ballet tour. The next, she was waking up in a hospital bed with a shattered ankle and no hope of ever performing again. "You lose your dream," she said. "And for a while it feels like you lose yourself." Their eyes met. No pity, just recognition. Cassian reached for her hand across the table. "You didn't just give my son back his strength. You gave me back something too." She smiled softly. "Maybe we both needed a reason to try again." That night didn't end with a kiss or a promise. It ended with something deeper. A new rhythm forming in both their hearts, uncertain but undeniable. Julian's progress became remarkable. With Amira guiding him, he transitioned from standing to walking. With every step, he rediscovered confidence. With every spin, a little boy who had once hidden from the world began to shine. But what amazed Cassian most wasn't the physical healing. It was the joy, the unfiltered laughter between Amira and Julian as they danced in the diner, the shared glances, the way music transformed their pain into movement. One afternoon, Julian surprised them both. He stood in the middle of the diner, arms raised. "Play the music," he told Amira. "Let's dance together." As the soft rhythm of a piano ballad played, they moved, haltingly, then with growing flow. And for the first time, Julian danced, not just mimicked movement, but truly danced. Cassian watched with awe. A customer near the counter pulled out their phone, recording quietly. The video went viral the next day. "Millionaire's son dances again, thanks to a waitress with a broken past." Cassian offered to pull it offline, hire lawyers, bury the attention. But Amira just smiled. "Maybe this story was meant to be seen," she said. "Maybe someone else out there needs to know broken people can still create beauty." The story gained traction. Reporters called, offers poured in, from dance studios, therapy clinics, morning shows. Amira wanted none of it. "This isn't about fame," she told Cassian. "It's about one boy and one second chance." Still, the media attention did something unexpected. It brought Cassian and Amira even closer. He began visiting the diner not just with Julian but alone. They talked late into the evenings. He helped her repair a flickering sign. She taught him how to flip pancakes. Julian, ever observant, started calling her Mira. One night after closing, Cassian stayed behind. The jukebox played a soft jazzy tune. Without a word, he reached out his hand. "Dance with me," he said. She laughed nervously. "Cassian, I limp." "So do I," he replied. "Just in other ways." They danced, slowly, silently, with pain and grace stitched into every movement. When the music faded, he whispered, "You're the strongest woman I've ever met." She looked up, tears in her eyes. "Then don't let go." Months passed. Seasons changed. So did the people inside the lantern's glow. Cassian bought a small house on the edge of Ember Hollow. Not for the view, but for the diner that sat within walking distance. Amira helped decorate the guest room. Julian planted flowers in the backyard. They weren't officially a family, but they felt like one. Then one spring morning, Cassian stood on Amira's porch. He wasn't wearing his usual business suit. Just jeans, a shirt, and a look of unshakable certainty. "I've spent my life building empires and buying futures," he said. "But I've never wanted anything as much as this life, with you and Julian." From his coat pocket he pulled a small velvet box. "I don't want perfect. I don't want polished. I want us, messy, brave, real." "Amira Sloan, will you marry me?" She didn't cry. She danced, spinning once, just enough to make her ankle twinge. Then she fell into his arms. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes to everything." They married in the garden behind the diner. It wasn't grand. No paparazzi, no designer gowns, just laughter, fairy lights, a local string quartet, and everyone in Ember Hollow who had ever been touched by Amira's warmth or Cassian's quiet generosity. Julian, now 10, walked down the aisle proudly. No wheelchair, no cane, just steady, confident steps. Amira wore soft ballet flats beneath her gown. She hadn't danced in public since the injury, but when the music started, she extended her hand toward Julian. "Shall we, partner?" He grinned and nodded. As they danced, Cassian watched them, heart brimming. What began as a chance encounter in a lonely diner had become a testament to healing, hope, and family. Then Amira turned to him. "Your turn." They swayed together beneath the stars, and this time there were no limp steps, only rhythm and love. Years later, the story of the woman who danced again and the boy who walked again remained a favorite in Ember Hollow. Amira never returned to the stage. She didn't need to. She ran a community dance studio beside the diner, where kids from all walks of life learned to move with courage. Cassian helped fund scholarships quietly. Julian, strong, bright, and now leading classes of his own, always made time for new students who were afraid to stand, and every year on the anniversary of their wedding, they danced. Theirs wasn't a story of miracles. It was a story of choice, of love that grew between broken places, of hope that bloomed in the unlikeliest soil. So if you ever feel like your story is over, remember theirs. And if you believe in second chances, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that just might remind you of the beauty in the unexpected.